All right, so here's the deal. I'm in Minneapolis to drive the all-new from the ground up 2025 Chevrolet Equinox. And over the course of a couple days, I'm gonna be driving the LT front-wheel drive, the RS all-wheel drive, and behind me here, the Activ all-wheel drive as well. I want to send a huge thanks to Chevy for inviting me out, but let's get going and I'll let you know what I think about the drive. All right, so here's the deal. I was just talking to my camera for the last 5 minutes, realizing that it wasn't recording me. So I'm gonna try to remember everything I said, but to start things off, I'm gonna be driving 3 different trim levels of Equinox over the next few days. First and foremost, I am in the RS, and secondly, there is only 3 trim levels, of the new 2025 Equinox. We start with an LT, we have the Activ, and we have the RS. The Activ and the RS are, kind of at an equal playing field in terms of, the features you can get for it and so on. It's more so aesthetically they are different, a little bit different grille, different tires. I'll get into that in my walk around video, so if they're before this or after this, whatever, check out my channel and you're gonna see walk around videos with the Activ and the RS and so on. The Activ and the RS, which I'm in right now, again, I'm in the RS currently. The RS is all-wheel drive, and so is the Activ. The LT that I'll be driving later today is going to be front-wheel drive. So it's going to give me a good, comparison, a good feel for them. Now, I don't know if many of you know this or not, but I used to be a Chevy salesman, a GM salesman. I used to sell all 4 brands of General Motors vehicles. And I've only been out of there for a couple years, and I was 10 years in sales doing that. Now, why I'm saying this is because this is going to be 20 years. The 2025 model year is 20 years since the introduction of the Equinox model. And that means that my entire selling career, I was selling Equinoxes. And if you also didn't know this, the Equinox is the currently the second best selling Chevrolet vehicle. I believe the Trax is going to start getting up there, but it's other than the Silverado, it's the next best selling vehicle. And so it's something that Chevy sells a lot of, I sold a lot of, I've been in a lot of, and to put it even more perspective, both my mother and my father own different generations of the Chevrolet Equinox, and I've driven both of their vehicles as well. So to say that I'm well versed for this test drive, I think would be an understatement. Just for the amount of time I sit behind the wheel of Equinoxes. A couple of things I can notice right off the bat is I like the steering wheel. I know you can't see it right this moment, but the steering wheel it's more robust. I like the design of it, but I like the feel of it. It feels bigger than the steering wheel, thicker than the steering wheel that's in the current, the previous generation Equinoxes. And it also, there's something with the handling that I like a little bit better. Now, I did talk to the engineers not long before I, got in the vehicle, and they were talking about, a real focus on the handling of this vehicle. And that is what I'm noticing right now, is it does have, a better sense of handling, a better sense of feel for the road, I guess if you can put it that way. Not that there's anything wrong with the previous generation Equinoxes, but I am noticing an improvement. And so that's obviously a positive. I'll be talking about the feeling on the other vehicles, especially, comparing the all-wheel drive to the front-wheel drive, different tire sizes, wheel sizes, and so on. But one of the things I also am liking about this RS right now is the quietness of the cabin. Quietness of the cabin is big to me. I've got 3 children. My wife is typically with me when we're driving, obviously, and because of that, I don't want to be having to yell to the people in the back seat, to be able to hear me as I'm driving. I want to be able to focus on the road and talk at a normal pace. I don't have the radio on here. I have the air conditioning on, which I'm going to turn down that fan a little bit in case it's coming through. But not a lot of road noise at all, and I really like that. I mean, that's one of the things that I've always liked in that Buick lineup is this noise dampening, and they've clearly done their job in terms of noise dampening within this vehicle as well. As far as the, design and things like that, I'm going to talk about that in my walk around video, so stay tuned for those walk around videos. Whether they're before or after this video, I'll be putting hopefully an LT, an RS, and an Activ walk around video, so you can see more of the things I'm talking about, and we'll talk about some other details. Actually, some really cool tech in these as well. And speaking of tech, I really like that as well. So actually, I'm going to switch that over to there we go. The cool thing is, you can't see it right now, but 11.3 inch touchscreen, and then 11-inch programmable digital screen in front of the driver. What I like about it is I literally just switched over the navigation. It's on the screen in front of me. That was something that the Cadillac Escalade had just a few years ago. And so it's really cool to see. It's not virtual nav, but it's navigation. But regardless, it's really cool. Power-wise, there's a couple different power options. I guess I can talk about this now. Maybe I can overlook that when I go into the front-wheel drive LT. But if you get a front-wheel drive model, which front-wheel drive LT, it is going to have, they both, pardon me, have the 1.5 liter 4-cylinder turbo, inline turbo. I want to say 175 horsepower. Slight difference in torque. It's like 203 and 185 on it, something like that. Difference between the front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. All-wheel drive having more torque. Both the same horsepower though, but they are having different transmissions, completely different transmissions for that matter. So gone away is the 6-speed in general. The 6-speed used to obviously be the transmission of choice, of only choice in the Equinoxes. Now what we're gonna have is the CVT transmission, which I'm anxious to try. We'll talk about that as we get to that in the video. The CVT transmission is going to be in the, oh, we got a train here, so maybe you'll have time to talk. I'll have time to talk a bit. Oh, let's go the other way. CVT transmission in the front wheel drive, and we have the new 8-speed with new software in this RS, and we'll see that in the Active as well. Anything with the all-wheel drive, essentially. So great to see that they've got a couple options that way. I'm very curious. I'll be honest with you. I'll be bluntly honest with you. I've never been a fan of CVT transmissions. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about that. I've never really been a fan of CVT transmissions. So I'm very curious to see how it's going to react in the front wheel drive, which we're going to talk about here as the video goes along. Space is good. One thing I noticed this, I think it was in the, I want to say, I can't remember if it was the Acadia or the Equinox EV. I'm not a fan. Oh, one second.
East 46th Street, Great River Road.
I'm not a super big fan of the headrest. What I mean by that is it's comfy, but like I find it, and no matter how because you can't tilt it this way, I find it's like right in the back of my neck. Now I just could sit differently than a lot of people. I do sit more forward. I'm actually a former like ATV racer, snowmobile racer, so I'm a more rider, like driver forward type of style.
East 46th
but
Street, Great River
and
Road.
maybe because of that I've got the seat against me. But I don't know. Maybe drive one at your dealership and tell me what you think about that. But I think that's kind of a minor detail. It's something I probably get used to. It's just different than my truck, right? I mean, the truck is gonna sit differently no matter what. But the power, so far I'm noticing on this 1.5, I had to merge to get on the highway a couple minutes ago. You would have heard me talk about that, except for the fact that I was talking to nobody because the camera wasn't on. And it was peppy. It was impressive. Braking, yeah, impressive. I mean, it's not an overly heavy vehicle, but they've obviously done their due diligence in terms of that. Tons, by the way, I got to talk to the engineer in regards to the safety features today. I can't even list them all right now. Maybe I can try and put them up on here. If not, I'll put them on walking videos. But tons of standard safety features, which are going to be ultra important. Well, just about everybody, especially those of you with families and young children, and you want to protect everybody. And it's not even just protection of the car; it's protecting you from getting accidents and harming other people as well. It's stopping you. It's it's got a lot of things. Now, one of the things it doesn't have is it does not have Super Cruise. We're not going to see Super Cruise, so I'm not utilizing it because there is no Super Cruise in any of the trim levels for 2025. However, the trade-off is we do at least have adaptive cruise control, but yes, you should have adaptive cruise control, but it's standard.
Turn right onto Great River Road, Minnehaha Avenue.
Minnehaha, but it is standard. Oh, turning left. Why am I going right here? Oops. What am I doing? What street do they want me to go on here? Sorry. It is.
At the light, turn right onto Great River Road, Minnehaha Avenue.
A standard feature. So adaptive cruise control is a standard feature amongst other things like heated seats, heated steering wheel. So that's pretty cool. And those safety features I was talking about, 90%.
At the traffic circle, continue straight onto South Minnehaha Drive.
90% of the safety features that are going to be incorporated are standard. There's only a few that upper end, like surround vision camera as one example, that will not be standard. So the LT is coming with a plethora of standard features, which we're going to talk about when that ride happens. In fact, I think I'm done talking about the RS right now, other than when I get into the, not RS, when I get into the, sorry, I'm on a roundabout here,
In
which we don't have very much in
feet, your
Canada.
destination will be on the left.
When I get into the LT, what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to double check, because I don't remember if I'm in a vehicle right now that has 20-inch wheels or 19-inch wheels. But with the RS, you have the option for 20-inch wheels and 19-inch wheels. So I'll talk about that when I get to the LT, which is going to be right now. All right, so here we go. This one's going to be a little bit shorter of a talk, mainly because I went over some things, of course, already with the RS. But secondly, mainly it's because of the fact that I only have a little bit of time with this. I already drove for a bit because I wanted to see how it felt, and now I want to talk about it. Again, the main difference, what I'm in right now, of course, it's the, I'm going to move this so it's not making all this noise. This is the LT front wheel drive. That means a couple things. It means a little less torque than we had in the RS. Of course, it's a front wheel drive, you know, versus the all-wheel drive. And then lastly, this now, of course, has the CVT, pardon me, CVT transmission as opposed to the 8-speed transmission, utilizing the same 1.5 liter 4-cylinder, you know, turbo. So there's no difference there in the horsepower. As I mentioned, a little bit difference in the torque. Okay, remember how I said I don't like CVTs? I don't enjoy them. I'm just taking off from a light here just to give it a little bit of a go here again. So far, pleasantly surprised. And I think I'm a little more than pleasantly surprised, simply because of the fact, obviously going in, I almost wish I didn't know this was a CVT. The reason why is because if I didn't know it was a CVT, I don't have to think about it. I don't have to like be, you know, concentrating on it. But even though I am doing that, I'm actually pleasantly surprised. I'm not noticing the things from the CVT that I don't know why. Maybe I'm a traditionalist. I like that shifting feel or whatever it is. But I could get used to this. Would it be my first choice? Not necessarily, but I don't think it's everybody's first choice to begin with. I think that that's why they have the 8-speed transmission and they have the CVT, which I know is better on fuel and so on and so forth. And obviously it's in the less expensive vehicle, being it's, you know, a front wheel drive. So ultimately, you know, I just don't want to run over somebody who's crossing the road in front of me here. Ultimately, I would have to say, again, I'm pleasantly surprised. The power, even though there's a bit of torque difference, I don't notice it. I mean, again, it's not, to be fair, it's not as though the 1.5 with the 8-speed is a rocket ship by any means. We know that it's not designed to be that way. But does it have enough, you know, enough giddy up in its step to, you know, accelerate, you know, through a, that person has a stop sign, they're not stopping, to accelerate through, you know, onto the highway or whatever? Absolutely it does. And so that is kind of what I look for in the vehicle. I want something that's, you know, fuel efficient, something that's easy to drive. I don't have to think about it. As far as the noise, maybe a slight difference in the noise of this one. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just the different, I'm just in a different vehicle. It could be any number of different things. I hear it revving a little bit different, whatever. A slight difference maybe there. Again, nothing that, unless I didn't have the radio on and wasn't concentrating for it, that I would ever notice. The average person is never gonna notice. So, you know, the front wheel drive with the CVT in the LT is a definite consideration. The cool part is there's like a ton of features that you can actually get for this as well. You know, so in terms of like, you know, oh, sorry, there's like people pulled over onto the side of the road. I don't know what the deal with Minneapolis is, but I've encountered a lot of poor drivers in this city, I have to say. Anyhow, backing up, you know, again, it is an LT, all right? So this is your entry trim level. It is gonna come standard with heated seats, heated steering wheel, adaptive cruise control. Not standard, but is in this vehicle right here, a panel sunroof. It actually has, I'm looking at it right now, the rear vision camera mirror. And again, the same screens you're getting in the top trim levels, which is the 11.3-inch touchscreen, the 11-inch programmable. I have the navigation in front of me as I'm looking. You know, it still has a beautiful leather-wrapped steering wheel, wireless charging. So, I mean, although it's an LT, you know, it's nothing to shrug on, because it has a lot of, and again, LT front wheel drive on top of that all, this has a lot of cool things. Hopefully I can get out the outside. I'm gonna do a walk around this one way or the other, and you're gonna see, you know, it has some nice wheels on the one I'm looking at. The colors, you know, color. It's a gray color on this one. I think it looks fine, but yeah, so that's my impression so far on 2 of the 3. Tomorrow I'm gonna be heading out in the Active, and I'm really excited to see what that's gonna be like. By the way, this is sitting on 17s. Oh, and remember I told you I was gonna tell you what wheels were on the one I was driving today. It was the 19-inch wheels. I have video of the 20-inch wheels, and maybe I can overlay it if I can think to get a horizontal video of it. But I definitely have drove the one with the 19-inch wheels, and right now the LT has only 17-inch wheel options. That's what I'm driving. Tomorrow, 17-inch wheel options on the Activ. All right, so day 2, and now I am currently sitting inside the Activ trim model. You can probably see that right here on the headrest. First and foremost, the comfort of the seats. I don't notice a whole lot of difference between them, but I do like the seats in here. I do like, you know, I didn't talk about that in maybe the other videos. It wraps around me quite nice. I'm not a small individual by any means, so sometimes the smaller compact SUVs can feel a tad uncomfortable. Legroom wise, it's not, and most certainly, you know, the seat is not. Now, obviously, to be fair, it's not as though I've driven this vehicle for 5 straight hours. That would be a little bit different test, but for the amount of time I've spent in them, it's been more than impressive. I've also been sitting in the passenger seat for the first good half of today as well, so getting that perspective was nice as well. And again, no difference on that seat, but they use like a partial like micro suede in here, which is kind of cool. And again, the color, you know what, listen, I understand the color could be a hit or miss. It's kind of polarizing in the sense that you could really like this color or really dislike this color. I'm on the side that tends to like it, but this, by the way, is the only color choice of interior in this trim level, so just keep that in mind. If you don't like it, maybe you're looking at the Activ or an upgrading an LT. But let's talk about the ride, because that's what we hear about. So much like, you know, yesterday in driving the LT and driving the RS, obviously the power is, you know, the same as basically we're finding in the RS. The difference that I was looking for today was mainly in regards to the main difference of these vehicles, aside from the aesthetics, which is the tires and slightly differently tuned suspension between the two vehicles. So they have said that the Activ has a specifically tuned suspension. Are we off-roading this in Moab? No, we absolutely are not. But you know, especially where I live in northern Canada, I mean, you know, there's some pretty treacherous roads just to get out to some people's camps, with some pretty, you know, rough areas and washouts and things like that. So, you know, I would want a vehicle, if that's something I'm doing quite often, that can handle that. And that comes down to the tuning of the suspension, but it's certainly, and most certainly, the tires that are on this. And they're not just a pretty looking tire. They don't, you know, they don't just have an appearance of an off-road tire. They're actually a specifically made, in conjunction with Chevrolet and General, tire that is the General Grabber off-road tire. It's a 17-inch wheel, 17-inch tire, so you're getting obviously a lot of sidewall, which is what's important when it comes to an off-road tire, right? All that being said, what I was looking for was to see if it's going to give you a rougher ride, and B, or 2, is it going to, you know, give you any difference in terms of noise? And of course, like vibration, the steering wheel, things like that. One thing I can confidently say so far is, especially if I hadn't driven the other 2 models, I wouldn't notice this to be, you know, from looking at it from the outside and getting in, I wouldn't notice it to be anything that's, you know, that I'd be worried about. It's not rattling the teeth out of my head. It's not shaking the steering wheel in my hand. So the comfort of that is pleasant. Do I notice a slightly different road noise? Yes, it is noticeable, not to the point of being annoying, however. And to be honest with you as well, and to be fair, I don't ever drive my vehicle without the radio on, or if the radio is not on for whatever reason that is, it's because I'm talking to somebody. And both of those things would totally and completely either drown out or distract you from any slightly additional road noise that I feel like we're noticing in this. So in terms of, you know, the road noise and all that kind of stuff, I'm not noticing anything that's substantial or anything that would, you know, take me away from purchasing this. One of the things I find very interesting, however, is that, and I have to confirm this for Canada, if there is a discrepancy, I will definitely put it in the text. I'm not here in a Canadian wave with Chevrolet, so I don't necessarily know, you know, some of the Canadian statistics. And what I'm concerned with is, I know in some cases lately Chevrolet, GM in general, has bringing only all-wheel drives of certain versions up. But in the United States, which is obviously the majority of these are going to be sold, there is the option for a front-wheel drive. Obviously, we haven't had the experience with that, but again, it's going to be much like the LT aside from the tires. But there is a front wheel drive option, which is going to be obviously slightly less expensive. So if obviously you like the off-road looks of this, you got the appearance of it, but you don't need that extra, you know, money. You know, you're living in a a more southern climate, perhaps you're not worried about the snow and all that kind of stuff, then you can most certainly look into getting the front wheel drive version to save that money. But overall, again, the quietness of this vehicle has been impressive to me. You know, considering again the noise, you know, the tires potentially being noisier. I have a truck which has aggressive tires, and it's very noticeable, and it shakes the steering wheel a tiny bit, like things like that. So the nice part is getting the looks, getting a little bit extra off-road ability, but not sacrificing probably what still most of you, even if you are doing some off-roading, it's still probably only 20% of your driving at most. So you still want to have that other 80% of your driving to be filled up with something that is obviously comfortable. Handling, I don't notice really a whole lot there. You have a slight little bit of body roll in the vehicle, as you're going to. It is an SUV at the end of the day. It is planted though pretty well. Again, 2.5 inches wider, as I mentioned. I don't remember if I mentioned in this video, but obviously in my walk around videos. And by the way, check out my walk around videos. I'm gonna have one on this particular model, the RS and the LT front wheel drive. So I'll talk more about the specifics and, you know, the technology and all that kind of stuff in it. But I hope you enjoyed the ride review. Most certainly, if you have any questions, I would love to hear, or comments. What do you think about the new Equinox? Please shout those out down below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, take care.